The temperature in Dubai is climbing toward a threshold that makes human survival impossible. And just last summer, the city came terrifyingly close to crossing it. The images are a glimpse into a potential future. Gleaming skyscrapers shimmering through heat haze, streets empty under a punishing sun, and a thermometer reading that looks like a typo. The official record for the UAE is 52.1 degrees Celsius, or 125.8 Fahrenheit. But it's not the dry heat that will make this city unlivable. It's a second, more sinister number, one that measures the point where your own body can no longer save you, the point where sweat stops working. In July of 2023, as a heat wave smothered the Persian Gulf, the wet bulb temperature, a measure of both heat and humidity, hit 33.6 degrees Celsius. The absolute limit for human survival is 35. Let us know in the comments below if you've ever experienced heat so intense it felt dangerous. Your perspective is a critical piece of this story. These are the truths that will define our future, yet a staggering number of people who watch these briefings forget to subscribe. Do not be one of them. Hitting that subscribe button is a small click, but it is a statement that you demand to stay informed on the stories that matter most. The situation is urgent, and staying aware is no longer optional. Do it now. And let's begin. This is the science behind the crisis. A wet bulb temperature is not what you see on a weather app. It is measured by wrapping a wet cloth over a thermometer bulb and exposing it to the air. It represents the lowest temperature the air can be cooled to by evaporation alone. It is a direct measure of how effectively your own sweat can cool your skin. When the wet bulb reading hits 35 degrees Celsius, or 95 Fahrenheit, the air is so saturated with heat and moisture that sweat cannot evaporate. At that point, the body's primary cooling mechanism fails. Completely. It does not matter how much water you drink or how much shade you find. The laws of physics take over. A healthy human being can survive for perhaps 6 hours under these conditions before their core temperature rises to lethal levels, leading to organ failure and death. Unlivable. And the Persian Gulf is a global hotspot for these extreme conditions. The reasons are geographic and unforgiving. The sea itself is one of the warmest on the planet, shallow and enclosed. As global temperatures rise, the surface water of the Gulf heats up even more. That warm water then evaporates into the air above it, creating a thick, suffocating blanket of humidity. When a heat wave brings scorching air temperatures from the Arabian desert and layers it on top of that extreme humidity, the wet bulb reading starts to climb toward the unthinkable, and cities like Dubai are on the front lines of this collision. Researchers at MIT have been warning about this for years. Their models predict that by 2070, without significant global action on climate change, the Persian Gulf will regularly experience heat waves that surpass the 35-degree wet bulb threshold. Not for an hour, but for days, making parts of the region uninhabitable for anyone without constant technologically assisted cooling. But here is the detail that reveals the true crisis. The problem is not just the ambient climate. It is the city itself. Dubai's relentless and spectacular growth has created a powerful urban heat island effect. Miles of dark asphalt roads, vast fields of reflective glass on skyscrapers, and endless concrete absorb and trap solar radiation during the day. Then, at night, when the natural desert environment begins to cool, the city radiates that stored heat back into the atmosphere. The result is a bubble of elevated temperature that can make the city significantly hotter than the surrounding landscape. NASA satellites have visualized this phenomenon, showing Dubai glowing red with retained heat, while the desert cools to blue and green. It is a self-perpetuating furnace. And what is the city's solution to this self-inflicted heat? The very technology that worsens the problem on a macro scale. The comments on our last report were filled with astonishing first-hand accounts. Keep adding your voice to this one. Every detail shared helps build a clearer picture of what is truly happening on the ground. And here is the paradox that makes it so much more dangerous. The modern miracle of Dubai, its very existence as a global hub of commerce and tourism, is built on a foundation of air conditioning. It is the city's life support system. From the moment a person steps off a plane into the climate-controlled airport, they enter a network of artificial cold. It flows through the metro, into cooled bus stops, through skywalks into malls so vast they contain indoor ski slopes, like Ski Dubai, where real snow is maintained at -2 degrees Celsius year-round. It cools every apartment, every office, every hotel room. Air conditioning is not a luxury here. It is the essential technology that makes life possible during the brutal summer months. But this life support system has a devastating cost. Air conditioners work by pulling heat out of an indoor space and pumping it outside. Now multiply that effect by millions of units all running 24/7 across a sprawling metropolis. The collective waste heat expelled by these machines adds another layer of thermal load to the already superheated urban environment, intensifying the very problem they are designed to solve. The energy demand is staggering. During peak summer months, air conditioning can account for up to 70% of Dubai's total electricity consumption. And that electricity has to come from somewhere. While the UAE is making massive investments in solar, a significant portion of its power grid is still fed by burning natural gas. So the cycle becomes complete. Extreme heat necessitates more AC, which demands more energy, which often leads to more emissions, which contributes to further climate change, and even more extreme heat. It is a vicious, accelerating feedback loop. And it creates an incredible fragility. What happens to a city of over 3 million people if that power grid fails during a 50-degree heat wave? The air-conditioned towers become glass ovens. The life support system gets unplugged, and survival becomes measured in hours. This dependency is echoed in the city's water supply. Over 90% of Dubai's fresh water comes from desalination plants, an industrial process that removes salt from seawater. This technology is another modern marvel, but it is profoundly energy-intensive. Again, contributing to the emissions that fuel the warming climate. It's a city built in defiance of nature, a technological fortress holding back the desert. But the enemy is no longer just outside the gates. It's inside the system itself, a ghost in the machine. If this analysis is helping you see the bigger picture, take a moment to hit the like button, and if you know someone who thinks of Dubai as just a futuristic playground, share this video with them. Understanding these hidden costs is vital for everyone, especially for the family and friends we care about. The city's architecture, a global symbol of ambition and wealth, is an active participant in this crisis. The iconic skyline, a forest of glass and steel towers, is designed to impress. But these materials are an environmental liability in a hot climate. Glass facades can create intense glare and reflect heat onto the streets and buildings below, while also requiring immense amounts of energy to cool the interiors from the solar gain. The dream of a city of the future, carved out of the desert, is now facing a reckoning with the basic laws of thermodynamics. The aesthetic of progress has become an engine of heat. Every new tower, every new highway, every new glistening facade adds another degree of risk to the city's long-term viability. This isn't an unforeseen consequence. It's the predictable outcome of building a hyper-modern metropolis in one of the hottest places on Earth, using materials and designs better suited for cooler climates, and then running it all on an IV drip of brute force energy. Sustainability was an afterthought, not a founding principle. And now, the bill is coming due. And while residents and tourists move through this engineered bubble of cold, a different reality exists just outside the air-conditioned corridors. Here is the reality for those on the front lines. The soaring skyline of Dubai was not built by magic. It was built by the hands of millions of migrant workers, primarily from South Asia and Africa. They are the ones who pour the concrete, install the glass, pave the roads, and maintain the infrastructure, often working outdoors in conditions that are unimaginable to most. They are the population most exposed and most vulnerable to the city's escalating heat. To protect these workers, the UAE government mandates a midday break. From mid-June to mid-September, all outdoor labor is prohibited between 12:30 p.m. and 3 p.m. It is a necessary measure, but it raises a terrifying question. What about the hours just outside that window? What about 11 a.m. when the temperature is already searing, or 4 p.m. when the asphalt is still radiating heat like a stovetop? A 2019 study published in the journal Cardiology looked at the deaths of migrant workers in the UAE and found a strong correlation between heat stress and fatalities officially attributed to cardiovascular failure. The report suggested that hundreds of deaths among otherwise young, healthy men could be directly linked to heat exposure, even if it wasn't listed as the official cause of death. As Michael Page from Human Rights Watch put it, the UAE's outdated heat protection law for workers is failing to protect them from the real-life dangers of heat and humidity, which are reaching life-threatening levels. He added a stark comparison. If the authorities can air-condition malls, they can also create safe conditions for the workers who build and serve the country. The reality is a stark divide. One population experiences the city as a seamless transition between refrigerated spaces. Another experiences it as a relentless battle against an increasingly hostile environment, where their own bodies are the first and last line of defense. The city's gloss and glamour are subsidized by the physical resilience of its most vulnerable inhabitants, a resilience that is being pushed to its absolute biological limit. We are about to explore the high-tech, almost science fiction solutions Dubai is deploying to fight back. And I know I am asking this again, but it is genuinely that important for our work. A huge portion of our audience, people who value this kind of deep dive reporting, haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, please take 1 second and click that button. It keeps this channel independent and ensures you will not miss the next critical update. Thank you. Faced with an existential threat, the UAE is not standing still. It is deploying its immense wealth to wage a technological war against its own climate. The most famous weapon in its arsenal is the cloud seeding program. Since the 1990s, the country's National Center of Meteorology, or NCM, has been running one of the world's most aggressive weather modification operations. Special aircraft fly into convective clouds, the kind that can produce rain, and inject them with salt crystals. These crystals act as nuclei, encouraging tiny water droplets within the cloud to condense, grow, and become heavy enough to fall as rain. The stated goal is to increase annual rainfall by 10 to 30%, a critical boost in a country that receives less than 4 inches of rain a year on average. It is an attempt to engineer a solution to scarcity, to literally pull water out of thin air. But this technology was thrown into the global spotlight under controversial circumstances in April of 2024. In a span of just 12 hours, Dubai was inundated with more than a year's worth of rain, causing unprecedented flooding. The world's busiest international airport became a lake. Supercars were submerged on highways. Malls were flooded. The immediate speculation, fueled by social media, was that the cloud seeding program had gone catastrophically wrong. Had they created a monster they couldn't control? The answer, according to nearly every atmospheric scientist and meteorologist who analyzed the event, was no. The extreme rainfall was caused by a large, slow-moving storm system in the upper atmosphere. They argued that an event of this magnitude was a classic signature of a warming climate, where a hotter atmosphere can hold more moisture, leading to more intense and unpredictable downpours. The cloud seeding operations that took place before the storm, they said likely had a minimal effect, if any, on the total rainfall. The flood wasn't a story about the failure of technology. It was a terrifying warning shot. It showed that even as Dubai tries to fine-tune its environment with precision technology, the larger, more chaotic forces of global climate change can overwhelm those efforts in an instant. The attempt to control nature was put in its place by nature itself, amplified and enraged. Here's what is not making most headlines. The feedback loops extend beyond just heat and energy. They are altering the very ecosystem upon which the region depends. The Persian Gulf itself is acidifying and heating up faster than the global ocean average. This puts immense stress on marine life, especially the coral reefs that are a vital part of the local ecosystem. Researchers have found that some local flora and fauna, on land and in the sea, are already living at the absolute upper edge of their thermal tolerance. For them, a further increase of even 1 or 2 degrees is not a matter of discomfort. It is a matter of extinction. Local species of lizards, corals, and plants have nowhere to migrate. They are cornered by a climate that is rapidly becoming alien to them. The ecological foundations of the region are cracking under the same thermal pressure that threatens human habitability. This is not a distant, future problem. It's happening now, in the waters of the Gulf and the sands of the desert surrounding the city's air-conditioned towers. Yet, this story is not one of simple doom. It is a story of profound contradiction. The same nation that built its wealth on fossil fuels and engineered a city with one of the highest per capita carbon footprints on Earth is now staging one of the world's most ambitious pivots to renewable energy. This is the Green Gamble, located in the desert outside Dubai, is the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park, a sprawling testament to this new ambition. It is one of the largest single-site solar energy projects in the world, a sea of photovoltaic panels stretching across the sand. The goal is a production capacity of 5,000 megawatts by 2030, a cornerstone of the UAE's Net Zero by 2050 inches strategic initiative. The country has pledged over $163 billion toward renewable energy and clean technologies, aiming to diversify its economy away from oil and fundamentally rewire its energy landscape. This contradiction was on full display in December 2023 when Dubai hosted COP28, the UN's annual climate change conference. The world watched as a major petrostate led global negotiations on transitioning away from fossil fuels. The result was the UAE Consensus, a historic agreement that for the first time called on nations to begin moving away from the very source of energy that built the modern world. Is this a sincere, world-leading effort to solve the climate crisis? Or is it a strategic move by a nation that sees the writing on the wall and is using its immense wealth to buy its way into a sustainable future? The answer is likely both. Dubai is simultaneously a major author of the problem and a massive investor in the solution. It is a city betting that technology, capital, and sheer force of will can overcome the laws of physics and biology. It's a race against time, a high-stakes gamble where the city is betting its own future on its ability to innovate faster than the climate can deteriorate. This is the final time I'll mention it, I promise. But our analytics show that for every person who subscribes, there are hundreds who watch and move on. I know you know the line. But every single subscription genuinely fuels our ability to continue this work, to uncover the stories that corporations and governments would rather leave in the shadows. If you have found any value here today, please click that button. It makes all the difference in the world. The question now is not whether Dubai can build impressive things. It is whether the things it is building can save it. Can a solar park, no matter how large, offset the embodied energy of a metropolis made of concrete and glass? Can a net zero pledge in 2050 solve the immediate biological threat of a 35-degree wet bulb temperature in the summer of 2030? The future of Dubai is a battle between two powerful forces: human ingenuity and planetary physics. One force builds indoor ski slopes in the desert. The other dictates that when the air is hot and humid enough, the human body can no longer cool itself. El-Fatih El-Tahir, the MIT professor whose team first modeled this threat, stated it plainly. Our results expose a specific regional hotspot where climate change is likely to severely impact human habitability in the future. The future he warned about is arriving ahead of schedule. The threshold hasn't just been approached. It has been brushed against. A warning from the planet itself. A brief glimpse of a state change from livable to unlivable. The question now is not if the heat will return. It is what happens when that invisible line of 35 degrees wet bulb is definitively and repeatedly crossed, and what that means for a city of millions built in what may become one of the most dangerous climates on Earth. And every season after that, as long as a global metropolis remains utterly dependent on an energy-intensive grid to hold back a climate that is getting hotter and more humid every year, the government points to its Net Zero 2050 plan and the promise of a sustainable tomorrow. The city's marketers sell a vision of futuristic luxury. But the laws of thermodynamics are not negotiable, and the heat is not just a season anymore. It is a slow-motion emergency. And the next heat wave is already building.